So as a leader, as an entrepreneur, and definitely as a parent, we're always being tugged in a million different directions. And we all know one of our most valuable resources is our time. And it never seems like there's enough. Now here at Modern Leadership, we talk about seeing things differently because we want to make a huge impact in the world while also connecting with our family, but never sacrificing our health, especially burning ourselves out. But how do we do that with all the demands on our time and our energy? That's what we're going to talk about here today. We're going to start seeing time through a different lens, through the lens of a leader. When we started to see time differently this way, not only did we have extra time that we could take on different things, but it allowed us to finally spend the time on the things that really matter to us without having to sacrifice anything to get there. Now we're going to talk about today how this applies to time, and we're going to break it down both into the tactics and the mindset that you need to be able to take full ownership of your time. But this same idea and philosophy of seeing things differently is literally what we do here at Modern Leadership. Because as a leader, we have to be able to see things differently. I'm sure you'd agree that an entrepreneur needs to see things differently in his business than the way that maybe they were looking at things when they were employed full-time. It's the same thing when we become parents. We now have to shift to a different mindset and see things differently because little people are depending on us to live. Now, in order to do that, we want to share some of the key takeaways that helped us look at time differently. And once we did, some of the actions we were able to take to help us generate more time. So let's dive right in.
So what's today's focus? So what we're going to be talking about is the mindset and tactics behind taking ownership of your time. And why does mindset matter? Because if you think about it, everyone has the same 24 hours. Yet some people seem to get more done because really it's not the tactics that matter most. It's how those people look at time. So I want to ask you a question. This way you can see how powerful it is to reframe your thoughts. How would taking control of time benefit me, my family, my business, and my career? Ask yourself this powerful question. So let's talk about our mindset about doing it all. Because back when we were struggling, we kept thinking that we just couldn't do it all, at least not the way that we were thinking about it. There's this mindset about doing it all. We think we need to do it all, but in fact, we don't. What we really need to do is find what's most important and do that efficiently. Back then, we also noticed that the more that we added, the worse that it got. In fact, this was actually great news because we were now open to hearing a different way. Like I said before, it's not about doing it all. It's about finding what's most important and doing that efficiently. So that means some things matter more than others. Everything that we do is not created equal. Everything has a different level of importance. But in our mind, our limiting beliefs will try and trick us into not doing anything at all or doing things that don't really matter. And guess what? That's when overwhelm comes in. Overwhelm is when everything is the most important thing. Okay, so let's take some action. I'm going to ask you some powerful questions to help you reframe your mindset around time. Imagine you get to the end of this year and you've fully taken charge of your time. Because of that, you were able to achieve some goals that you've been working on for a long time. Question number 1, what would you have achieved by the end of the year? Question number 2, what impact has that had on you, your family, and your business or your career? And question number 3, on a scale of 1 to 10, how willing are you to try something new to make this a reality? Think about these questions.
So we're going to dive into part number 2, which is the tactics on how we were able to show up and really maximize our time. But before we do, I want you to really reflect on those questions that Teresa asked you. You need to be in the right frame of mind to have an open mindset for what we're about to talk about now. If there isn't a glimmer of hope, if you don't think it's possible for you, or if you think that none of this will work, you're 100% right. But also, if you're looking for a different way, if you're looking to make the impact that you want to make in the world and with your family, then lean in because we're just getting warmed up. So part number 2 are the time tactics. These are the hows that most people want to rush to. Now, what Teresa said is that some things matter more than others. And I want to show you how this actually was implemented into our life. There's this thing called the Pareto principle. And what that says is that not only do some things matter more than others, but 20% of the actions that you take produce 80% of the results in your life. This could be with connection with your family. It could be you leading. It could be in your business. It could be in your personal health journey. There are 20% of actions that you take that actually produce a majority of the results that you're going to get, which means the opposite is true too. 80% of the actions you take before you understand this principle only produce the remainder 20% of results. So when you look at this logically, what would your life look like if you doubled down on those 20% and eliminated, outsourced, or delegated the others? That's what I want to dive into with you today. Now, when you think about the 80-20 rule, I want you to think about when it comes to connecting with your family, what are the 20% activities that you do that produce 80% of the results? More than likely, it's not transporting them to their activities, being around during dinner time, cleaning the house while they're there, sitting down and watching a movie without talking. These are the things that move the needle a little bit, but they don't make the true impact. Now, for me personally, the 20% is sitting down playing a board game, maybe going on a walk with my daughter, maybe playing a video game with Andrew, or spending some alone time with Teresa. These are the things that actually move the needle the most. And if I could double down on those and eliminate the other rest, the things that maybe I don't necessarily need to do myself, or there's a more creative way of doing them without it having to be done by me, it'll totally change the relationship that I have with time. Can you see how this would be different? Now, the same thing applies not only around family, but also around the actions that you're taking in your business or your career, and especially on your leadership journey. So I want you to think of an area of your life right now that's an important priority for you. Maybe that's your business, maybe it's your family connection, maybe it's your health, or maybe it's climbing the corporate ladder. I don't know, I want you to pick one specific area. Then I want you to ask yourself, what are the activities that you do in that area daily? Write it all out. Brainstorm it. Maybe even if you're driving, just think about this out loud. Now, of those things, what are the things that make the biggest impact towards your specific goals in that area? What are some of the other things that you're doing that really don't move the needle that much at all? Having you identify your 80-20 in every area will give you back your time. Now we're going to take these activities and do something with them shortly, but there's one thing that I highly suggest you do, because like we said, as modern leaders, we see things differently. I want you to take this and actually implement it into your life, but I also want you to teach this strategy to everyone that you lead. It's very powerful when you're able to maximize your time, but think about the lives of those people who are led by you. How would they be impacted when they get total control over their time too? So yes, I want you to implement this in your life, but think about the impact that you will make when you start impacting and teaching this to other people. Okay, Mark, so what do we do with those 80% activities then? Let's break this down into 3 different things. The first one is removing. So based on those things that you either wrote down or thought about, what are some things that you can absolutely remove? Sometimes these are things that we've been doing for a long time, and we just haven't taken the time to slow down and realize that they're actually not moving the needle at all. Typically what I'll do is when I go through this exercise with a client, I'll ask them to cross those activities out so that they're still legible and you can still read them, to remind yourself to stop doing those things, because a lot of them have probably become a habit. The second part is, what are some of those things that you could do less of? Maybe there's things that have to be done and they have to be done by you, but you can do them less frequently. Sometimes even batch processing will actually help you in this area too. I always find it so powerful when we find how to remove stuff from our plate rather than just adding more stuff on. And that's the power of doing less and absolutely of removing things. So spend some time on both of these 2 ways. Now, the third way is outsourcing. These are things that you find that you have to do, but they don't necessarily have to be done by you. Now, I also want you to challenge yourself here, because there's some things that you're like, well, nobody could absolutely do this because it needs to be just as good as I'm doing it. But does it really? These are things like getting your house cleaned, maybe having somebody come over do your laundry, maybe taking your kids places. There's so many different things that you can lean into and actually help hire somebody to do those things so that you can do something else entirely different in the process. So based on the area that you're focusing on right now, what are some of those things that you need to outsource? Not only to get them off your plate, but so you never have to think about them again. Now, once you figure out what those activities are and you either remove, outsource, or do less of them, it's time to think about how can you double down on the things that matter the most. So looking back at your 80-20, what are your 20% activities and how can you do twice as much of those? And of course, the next step is to actually track it. Because if you truly want to improve, you have to start measuring it. Because what gets measured gets improved. It also reminds you of where you need to be spending your time and your attention. Because here's the thing, just theoretically talking about it during this presentation, if it doesn't make its way into a list or some way of tracking it, you're going to quickly forget about it a couple days from now. So find a way to track it. What's also incredible is if you have somebody or a team who can help monitor and check in with you, you're actually going to see yourself getting even more results because of this word called accountability. So part 2 of taking action is find a way to track it. This is a sample business activity tracker that I typically give to my clients, but there's multiple versions and ways of tracking the things that matter most to you. Whether I'm coaching a CEO, I'm coaching a police officer, or I'm coaching a business owner, I can always help them identify the 80-20 and create a tracker for them to check in with. Just ask yourself, what are the things that move the needle the most, and make sure you track those. So what did we do today? Well, we focus on mindset first. Don't just jump into the tactics. Remind yourself that some things matter more than others. Everything is not created equal. Figure out what you can outsource, do less of, or completely remove of your 80%, and then double down on the 20% that's really working. And remember, you don't get better by consuming, you get better by acting. Now you might get to this point, and you might be blown away at how leaders look at time differently, but you might be wondering what other areas of your life would be impacted especially when it comes to your leadership and to your business, if you were able to employ some of these type of strategies in those areas as well. Don't worry, we got you covered. Tap the screen to watch this next video, which talks a little bit about our inner circle and how we have a network of people who see things differently. It's crazy when you hang out with the right group of people, how contagious the actions, the energy, and the beliefs are to get you to not only identify what's most important, but to see things through your leadership lens. At the time of this video, Teresa and I are actually offering a free one-on-one for people who sign up to the membership. So if it's something that you're getting the pull towards, definitely join us today. Thanks for being here. We appreciate you for doing the tough things, for leaning into the time management strategies we shared today, and seeing things through a different lens. We appreciate you for the impact that you're making in the world and for being willing to be uncomfortable and grow through it. Thank you for being the leader that we need now more than ever, and keep leading from the front, leader. Bye.